Shajata from the Department of Microbiology, here with a new topic of milk-borne diseases. As we all know, milk is the best well-known complete dairy product of all foods. It contains proteins, fats, sugars, vitamins, minerals, and other good nutrients. It contains all the essential nutrients for the development and the growth of the body. Milk and the other milk products like buttermilk, cheese, ghee, etc. are highly infectious and it gets easily contaminated by the microorganisms in the modern milk production, where the gallons and gallons of milk is being processed. Milk is basically a sterile secretion, but it gets easily contaminated once it leaves the udder. The infection of the milk happens through the poor handling, storage, and the pre-processing activities. The sources of infection is being classified into two basic sources, which is the intrinsic factor and the extrinsic factor. The intrinsic factor include the animal and the extrinsic factor include the handler and the environment where the cattle is being kept. Intrinsic factors include the age of the animal, the breed of the animal, the health condition, the feed of the animal, etc., where the extrinsic factors include the human handler and the environment where the cattle is being kept. Common pathogens found in milk. So now let's see to the common pathogens where you can see in the milk when it is contaminated. It is Bacillus cereus, Listeria monocytogenes, Yersinia enterocoletica, Salmonella species, Escherichia coli, and Campylobacter species. The transmission of disease is being classified into two types, which is based on the transmission of the disease. First classification is the animal to human transmission, whereas the second transmission is based on human to human transmission through milk. Animal to human transmission includes tuberculosis, streptococcal infections, staphylococcal poisoning, salmonellosis, Q fever, foot and mouth disease, anthrax, leptospirosis, and cowpox, whereas the animal to human transmission has 9 diseases. When you see on the human to human transmission through milk has typhoid and paratyphoid fever, shigellosis, cholera, enteropathogenic E. coli infection, diphtheria, tuberculosis, viral hepatitis, and enterovirus. So when we learn about the milk contamination, we had to go through a topic called pasteurization, which is the important process where the milk is being sterilized. So the pasteurization method is developed by the Louis Pasteur in the year of 1864. Pasteurization generally means the heating of milk to kill the microorganisms which causes common contamination and diseases. Pasteurization enhances the quality and the shelf life of milk and its products. Bacterial infections, generally when we see about the infections of the milk, you can classify the infections into bacterial infections, viral infections, parasitic infections, etc. So when we see about the bacterial infection at the first place, you have brucella, coliform infections, staphylococcal infections, tuberculosis infections, Shigella-like infections, typhoid, and Bacillus anthrax. When you see about the brucella infection, it is caused by the bacterium called brucella. It causes brucellosis. This is transmitted from goat to the humans. The transmission of this disease can be either direct transmission or indirect transmission. Indirect transmission is the milk of the animal is infected, okay? So it causes granulomatous hepatitis and acute febrile illness in humans. The symptoms of these infections include joint and muscle pain, fever, weight loss and fatigue, and some people develop stomach pain and cough. The treatment of this infection includes a certain antibiotic combinations together. Next comes the coliform infections. As we all know, coliform infections indicate a fecal contamination, right? So in the dairy industry, contaminations of E. coli, Pseudomonas, Citrobacter, Klebsiella, Pseudomonas species are general. They favor hot temperatures. So this infection is, you have high chances of contaminations in unpasteurized milk, where the coliforms and E. coli are normal inhabitants of large intestine. The symptoms of these infections include pneumonia, urinary tract infections, cramps, vomiting, bloody diarrhea, fever, and etc. Next comes the staphylococcal infections. Humans and the dairy cows are the main carriers of the staphylococcal infections. So, it is a mucosal or cutaneous lesions like impetigo or cattle mastitis. The udder of the cattle or the hands of the milkman, it is highly responsible for the transmission of or the passing of bacteria to the milk. The symptoms are characterized like it is like nausea, vomiting, stomach cramps. Some people experience diarrhea too in the staphylococcal infections. Staphylococcal infection, you have enterotoxin, which is staphylococcus is a bacteria which releases a toxin called enterotoxin. It is resistant to heat and it escapes from the pasteurization. The way to eliminate this kind of enterotoxin from the milk is minimum of boiling from 1 hour to reduce the effect of the toxin. Staphylococci is prevalently grown in saline media where salt has been a basic ingredient. So the homemade cheese, like salted cheese, are at highly risk of contamination by the staphylococcal infection. So you can differentiate the staphylococcal infection into two types. One is the coccal infection A and other one is the coccal infection B. When you see about the staphylococcal A infection, the humans to animal transmission is happening here. So you have which acts as a carrier. Humans or to animal act as a carrier and they cause infections in dairy cows. Dairy cows are seen to have the udder lesions in the staphylococcal A infection. Where you see about the staphylococcal B infection, you have bovine mastitis. Bovine mastitis is nothing but an inflammatory response in the udder tissue of the mammary gland. Next comes the tuberculosis. Tuberculosis is transmitted through raw milk. Cattle, sheep, buffaloes, goats, camels can pass this bacteria. Bovine tuberculosis can infect humans, and the most common routine of the infection will be the drinking orally the unpasteurized milk or taking up the sweets or some dairy products made of unpasteurized milk. The symptoms of tuberculosis include fever, night sweats, and weight loss. The treatment of tuberculosis involves a few antibiotics together. Often the treatments include rifampicillin and isoniazid. Shigella. Shigella is said to be a important foodborne zoonotic bacterial pathogen. Zoonotic since it is transmitted from animal to human, which indicates zoonotic pathogen. So clinically, it causes diarrhea. It is the third most reported foodborne pathogens according to CDC. Shigellosis is a dysentery caused by the bacteria. Shigellosis is also called as bacillary dysentery, which is caused by the Shigella species called Shigella flexneri. The symptoms of this infection include fever, malaise, watery diarrhea, cramping, abdominal pain, and myalgia. The treatment of this infection is intake of certain antibiotics together. Next comes the typhoid. Typhoid paratyphoid fever is an enteric fever which is recognized as a milk-borne infection. It is transmitted through the ingestion of contaminated food or water with the urine or feces of the infected people, or it can also be transmitted from the direct transmission like from person to person. The most common symptoms of paratyphoid infection include high fever, headaches, weight loss, loss of appetite, weakness, or constipation. Some people, rare, some people get rose colored spots on their chest in their first week of illness. Next, the treatment of this paratyphoid fever includes ciprofloxacin for 10 days and azithromycin. Pasteurization is the best way to eliminate the Salmonella typhi bacteria and the paratyphi bacteria, which is responsible for the paratyphoid fever. Bacillus anthrax. Bacillus anthrax is a rare milk-borne pathogen. It is a gram-positive spore-forming rods, and the anthrax is commonly seen in sheep, cattle, and goats. Usually, it is transmitted by feed or water contaminated with the spores. The primary sign of anthrax in the grazing animals is the sudden death of the animal, often with a bloody discharge. So next we go through the viral infections. It includes poliovirus, Coxsackie virus, tick-borne encephalitis, hepatitis virus like hepatitis A and hepatitis E. Poliovirus. Poliovirus is the first enteric virus, which is a foodborne virus. It outbreaks in nearly 1900s. It is associated with the consumption of contaminated raw milk by the poliovirus. Initial symptom of poliovirus include fatigue, headache, vomiting, stiffness of the neck, and pain in the limbs. Coxsackie virus. Coxsackie virus is the very contagious virus. They can pass from person to person of direct transmission through unwashed hands or contaminated surfaces in contact with. They also can spread through the droplets, which is sprayed in air by the infected person when they sneeze or cough. It includes a fever, headache, muscle aches, and some also develop a sore throat, belly discomfort, or nausea. Tick-borne encephalitis. It is a parasitical infection. The incubation period of this infection is 7 to 10 days. The infection is transmitted when infected tick bites. Human can acquire this infection through consuming unpasteurized milk from the infected animal. The symptoms of this infection include fever, irritability, poor feeding, lethargy, and neurological manifestation, including seizures and encephalitis. Fungal infection. Fungal infection, you can see the udder of the cow which gets infected, and the udder of the cow is tend to excrete a large amount of milk. Nocardia astrocytes, bovine mastitis, it excretes a large amount for several months. Is treated with a temperature of 74 degrees Celsius for 15 seconds. The milk of the animal is treated in 74 degrees for 15 seconds or 64 degrees for 30 minutes for the complete destruction of the microorganism. So thank you for your patience on my lecture. For further queries and other issues, just give a mail at shasayology024@gmail.com. Your mails will be responded within 24 hours of time. A like and a subscribe will be of more encourageable. Thank you so much.